Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Well, Krystal, what's on the show today?
We're back together again. That's first and most important. Also, we're going to air some more of my exclusive sit-down with Senator Bernie Sanders. He's going to talk about his thoughts on China and also the threat posed to American workers by automation. We've also got a reporter on the ground from New Hampshire talking about his sit-down with Andrew Yang, and a brand new poll has a lot of people talking. We'll get into all of that and so much more today on Rising.
All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Krystal, what's on your radar?
So you will recall that last week we took a hard look at the differences between Sanders and Warren's philosophies of change and how that led to them having starkly different coalitions of support, their teams, if you will. So of the major candidates, Sanders' coalition is the most diverse, Warren's is the least. Warren does best with grad degree holders, Sanders with those who never even went to college. The higher up the income scale you go, the more Warren support you find. Sanders, of course, the exact opposite. His coalition is truly working class. His feelings towards the millionaires and billionaires seem to be much reciprocated. Well, I think we have some new reporting in our own exclusive sound that puts those team differences and what lies behind them into stark relief here. So in a well-reported piece over the New York Times, Jonathan Martin lays out the aggressive approach Warren has taken to courting the Democratic establishment. Her message, as he put it, while her liberal agenda may be further left than some of the Democratic establishment would prefer, she is a team player who is seeking to lead the party, not stage a hostile takeover of it. A team player. In other words, Warren seeks to reassure the establishment that she poses no threat to the fundamental power structure either within the Democratic Party, within D.C., or within the nation at large. Now, if you're a person who's doing well within that structure, either because you hold a position of power or are part of a well-off class that benefits from those existing power structures, I'm sure that's an appealing message. Sanders, on the other hand, it's a little different. When I sat down with the senator in Kentucky, I asked whether he believed the party establishment would ultimately support him if he is the nominee. Here's what he said.
I certainly understand that not everybody in the Democratic establishment, I think the third way folks referred to me as an existential threat to the Democratic Party. I think that was the term that they used. So,
are you?
In some ways I am. And that is that I want to transform the Democratic Party. We're sitting right now in Kentucky, right? This is a very poor state. This is a state which has a whole lot of folks who are working for low wages. You have a senator who wants to do away with the Affordable Care Act that would throw tens and tens of thousands of people in this state off the health care they have. They have an educational crisis. And yet you got two right-wing Republican senators. Most of the members in the House are Republican. Why is that? Why is that? And I think it's because the Democratic Party has lost the vision that it once had under FDR, even maybe under Harry Truman, about being the party of the working class of this country, being the party that says to the billionaire class, you know what? You can't have it all. You're all going to pay a fair share of taxes. You're not going to throw American workers out on the street. You know what, drug companies? You're not going to charge us the highest prices in the world. We're going to lower drug prices in this country. You know what? We're going to join every other major nation and have a Medicare for all single-payer program. But I think when you lose the willingness to confront the corporate elite that controls so much of our economic and political life, people understand what's going on.
When you lose the willingness to confront the corporate elite, people understand what's going on. They certainly do. And perhaps the answer to why Warren and Sanders' coalitions look so different is the simplest possible explanation. People can see who's going to be best for them. The multiracial working class knows that Sanders will actually put them first, and elites are terrified that he will do that. Warren, on the other hand, her campaign is predicated on a promise to change things, yes, but not to color outside the lines, not to pose an existential threat to anyone's power or class status. Now, there's been a lot of media puzzlement over how elites can embrace a candidate like Warren, who truly has spent her career challenging Wall Street. I'm reminded of a quote from The Leopard that I read in Anand Giridharadas' great book, Winners Take All. He says the ethos of elites in times of turmoil is that, quote, if we want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. Trump was a wake-up call for elites. They looked around and they saw a nation in rising misery with skyrocketing inequality, the worst addiction crisis in our nation's history, decimated communities, and people actually dying younger. They realized that if they wanted to keep the pitchforks at bay, some things would indeed have to change. If they wanted things to stay as they are, things would have to change. Now, Warren's exactly the kind of change they can embrace while knowing that nothing will really change, knowing that they will still be able to control how much and how far this change goes. When Warren assures the Democratic establishment that she's a team player, that's what she means. Because remember what team we're talking about here. It's the team that passed NAFTA and fought for TPP, the team that let unions wither on the vine, the team that voted to send our young working class men and women off to die in Iraq, the team that bailed out the banks and left homeowners to rot. Last week, Bernie Sanders tweeted, "If there's going to be class warfare in this country, it is about time the working class won that war." You see, Sanders is a team player too. He's on Team Working Class. Which team are you on? Sagar, I thought this reporting about Elizabeth Warren was so interesting, especially given the sorts of things we've been talking about here.
It's the right path for her, right? She's setting herself up for, if Joe Biden falls, that everybody falls in line. And actually, I think the story of this has all been written for months. You saw Third Way saying Elizabeth Warren would be acceptable.
That's right.
You saw a lot of elites. Look, she's drawing massive crowds. It's like Anand Giridhara's quote is actually really important, because people who understand what's happening know that they can't just sit and do nothing. So they're trying to do something without doing everything and actually appeasing the people that are suffering. And I'm reminded of the Business Roundtable letter that I talked about a few weeks ago, which is these Fortune 500 CEOs saying, we're going to treat our workers better, because they know that workers are very upset that some of their decisions have destroyed the U.S. middle class and working class in our economy, and so they have to pay lip service, but they don't really want to.
Right. Well, it's the difference between Amazon saying, we're going to give our workers, we're going to up their wages, right? We're going to make minimum wage $15 an hour. It's the difference between that, which is positive, right? It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And allowing them to unionize so that they actually have power in their own hands to push for the wages, healthcare, pension, work safety benefits that they deserve and would be able to do within a union. So it's, again, who continues to hold the power? And I think that's the fundamental difference here.
Absolutely.